Have you ever wondered how a legend might fall, not in a grand war, but on an ordinary street corner, like any anonymous person? That's exactly how Omar Little, the Robin Hood of Baltimore, met his end in the wire. A death as banal as it was shocking, as unexpected as it was inevitable. And that is what we're here to talk about today. Not just the death of a character, but the symbol that was extinguished with him. Omar was never just a bandit. He was a kind of parallel justice within the chaos of Baltimore's streets, robbing drug dealers, challenging the most feared kingpins, but never harming innocent. That was the oath that made him a living myth. And ironically, it was that very myth that drew eyes, fears, and hatreds, sealing his fate. After all, when you live as a legend, death doesn't come like it does for an ordinary man. Yet his death scene has no cinematic gunfire, no spectacular A 12-year-old boy, pistol in hand, pulls the trigger and instantly erases Baltimore's most feared figure. And what shocks the most is not just the act, but the silence after the coroner returns to normal. Life goes on as if nothing had happened. That finality is unsettling, as if the show is telling us violence doesn't need an explanation. It just happens. And that's exactly what makes Omar more than just a character. He's the living contradiction of the series. Both hero and villain, protector and predator. In every heist, in every ambush, there was a mix of adrenaline and a strange sense of morality. He had his own rules, and maybe that's why so many rooted for him, even knowing his hands were stained with blood. But let's be real, Omar was also human. Behind the long coat, the shotgun, and the whistle that made dealers tremble, there was a man scarred by loss, by interrupted loves, and by a life in constant war. He inspired respect, fear, and, for some, even hope. Curious, isn't it? How someone outside the law could be more admired than those meant to protect society. Up to this point, the why pushes us to reflect. The system fails, the police get lost in bureaucracy, politicians inside, and then someone like Omar emerges, imposing his own order. A distorted order, true, but one that, in the midst of chaos, seemed more coherent than official institutions. Baltimore in The Wire is not just a city, it's a mirror of our social failures. And Omar is the cruelest, truest reflection in that mirror. By the way, quick break here in the video. Let me tell you something else about practicality and survival. But at home, have you heard of the iRobot Roomba Combo J9 Plus? It's not just a vacuum, but also a mop. It vacuums and mops at the same time. While you binge The Wire or any other series, it handles the mess on its own. It's like having Omar Little in your living room, only instead of imposing fear, he imposes cleanliness. Totally worth checking out. Back to it. Omar's death is almost like a message from the series. No matter how feared, respected, or loved someone is, in the end, life can be erased in a trivial instant. The boy who killed him wasn't carrying some great story of revenge. There was no duel, no epic showdown, just a stray bullet, or better, a bullet found at the right moment. That coldness is what makes The Wire so brutally realistic. And here comes the final reflection. If Omar, the Robin Hood of Baltimore, could fall like this, what does that say about us, the viewers? Maybe the series is nudging us, showing that the myth is always bigger than the man. And death doesn't respect heroic narratives. The coroner remains, the city moves on, life doesn't stop to mourn, and that's more painful than any dramatic farewell. In the end, we realize Omar didn't just die on that corner. He had been dying little by little, Each time the system proved bigger than his courage. Each time his enemies multiplied. Each time his own humanity surfaced in fragility. The boy's bullet was only the final period of a sentence already written. And so the question remains, if even Omar, the man who defied the impossible, could fall in such a simple way, aren't we all just 1 second away from being erased by chance?